Hey, what's up? And today we are gonna see how I made my custom engine. So the first thing you should always ask yourself before creating an engine is,
Why do you even need an engine?
Yeah, man, just use Unity or Godot or whatever.
so yeah, if you don't know the answer to this question, then it's probably not a good idea to make an engine because building an engine takes a lot of time and there might already be a few engines in the language you are looking for. As you can see, there are tons of engines here in JavaScript and both TypeScript. Now to answer the question why I decided to make it an engine, we would have to go back a little. So I got into programming through Unity. I thought it would be fun to make games and so I decided to give it a try. So I took it as a hobby and made a few games which aren't published but they are pretty good, I think. After doing it as a hobby for about 2 years, I got into web dev because I wanted to see what it's like. Is it much different than game dev or so? I even made a few websites of my own. Then I wondered how about making a game that runs directly in the web. You see, growing up, I had played quite a ton of web games like any other kid. So I decided why not give it a try without an engine. I did made quite a few games. My first games were quite trash because I didn't had much of an idea how to approach them. In my last video, I finally managed to finish my game, but there was a problem. The game crashes on both GitHub and itch.io, so I can't share it. There were some things I didn't agree with the ECS library I used, and the code was downright bad, at least some parts of it were. So I went to make my own library. I mean, how hard can it be? Instead of using JavaScript, I decided to use TypeScript instead because TypeScript is much better than JavaScript and it would save me all the runtime errors. So to make an engine that runs on ECS, we would first need our own ECS system because having a custom ECS system would give me more control and it would be easy because I know what it does because I wrote it. It took me a few days to make it, but I was able to finally get done with it. It just has one file in the src folder which gets compiled. Overall, it's not that complex. I even made an RTX like game as an example. It's basically a simple RTX game except there are no enemies. As you can see, I can move unit. It works both on mobile and PC. Now to give a brief overview on how this ECS works. It basically uses classes as components. You first declare a class and then you can just use it as a component. As you can see here it's a position component and now you can just add it. If it's just one value you want to add, then you can just name it value and then pass it in constructor. As you can see, I have a rotation which only has one value and a scale which also has one value. Or if a component needs multiple values, then you can declare an option. As you can see, there is transform options. An option is basically a type which contains what properties should be sent. It basically gives you type safety. It's of course it's just how I do things. If you don't have to follow it, if you don't feel like it, you can totally go in another way. With the library done, I added it as a dependency. Currently, it's about a week since I started working on the engine and it already looks nice. Getting started is very simple. You first just import the engine after you have installed it. Then you create an instance of the engine. You can name it anything. It asks for some options such as canvas. You can either provide the canvas or it will make it itself. So let's give it a canvas. Make sure you have a canvas in the DOM here as you can see. Now let's just add a null check, otherwise TypeScript won't let us. Now let's pass in the canvas. And now we have a canvas of 680 and 600. That's the default size. And I styled it, so you have to style it manually if you want. Going back in the options, you can pass in more stuff such as resources. So let's check them out. Now let's add the resources property, and it takes images JSON part, audio part, or JSON. Now we have the images JSON part, but what do we pass in here? So if you are using Byte, you would likely have your images and JSONs inside the public folder, but you can also just put them in a root. Don't bother too much about it. So the data folder is where I keep my JSONs. You can just create a JSON and name it whatever you want. Then here comes the important part. First, let's link up the JSON in here in the image JSON part. And now we can load the images. Here, as you can see, it consoles.log the images data with the images. So now how do we define images? Defining images is pretty simple. You just need a images data.json or a JSON to store your images, and just write a key and that part with it. And with that, you can see the images with the resources. For audio, you can do the same. Just have another file and then link it. And with that, our audio should also be loaded. Now let's add a start and update function, and then link them so our engine will automatically run them. And here we go. The start function will only run once while the update one continuously runs. You can name these functions whatever you want and link as many functions as you want. I just prefer to use a single start and update to organize my code. So there are way too many things to show. I don't want to bore you, so you can figure out the engine on your own if you want with the docs and some examples. I will put the link of engine and docs in the description so you can check them out. With that out of the way, we can go ahead and actually make a game. So I decided to remake my first game. It is basically a simple game in which asteroids fall from above and you just have to destroy them by clicking them. But there is one problem with this game, that it was made using DOM. It was made entirely in DOM and I want to make it in Canvas now. So I redid the code again using the engine. Most of it was fine, but some parts were lacking. But I think it's good enough for now. We can always revisit it later and fix it. Testing the game on itch.io, I think it works fine. It starts off as simple and maybe a bit boring, but then it gets harder and harder. And I think that's it for today's video. I already made my first own npm library and I think it's not perfect. There are still some features that need to be implemented and some things that need to be tweaked a little. But I enjoyed the journey so far. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and subscribe so you don't miss the upcoming videos. And goodbye.